guys, Rose here. Synthetic, wavy, and curly styles. How to keep them looking fresh, how to take care of them so that they don't turn into a frizzy, matted mess. Before I begin, the hair that I'm currently wearing is Amber by Jon Renau in the shade Shaded Sun, which is color code 27T613S8. I have a variety of wigs and pieces, well, pretty much all wigs because I'm bald, some that have some sort of a curl pattern or some sort of a wave, right? And the way these pieces are usually made in the factory is that these fibers are wrapped around rods in the factory, and what they essentially do is bake the hair on a low temperature for a really long time, and then they cool it for a really long time, and then they take the fiber and fashion them into these gorgeous wigs and hair pieces. So some common issues arise with curly and wavy styles is issues with tangling, issues with it getting frizzy, matting, it can lose its curl. And so what do you do then? So my goal is to teach you what you need to know in order to make sure that your pieces last a really long time. I will say probably the biggest thing that you can do to avoid any of these problems is, if you're starting with a new wig or even just a wig you already have, is to make sure that you keep it untangled and combed regularly. And I'm not talking about combing it once a day. All of my friends and family know that ever since I started wearing wigs, I always keep a brush or a comb in my purse, in my house. I have one in every bathroom. I have one laying pretty much everywhere. I have one at my desk at work, so that as the day goes on, I can make sure that I gently untangle my piece. Because the last thing that I want to do is get home after a long day of work and pull off my wig and see that the total underside is completely frizzy and tangled up, and I have to sit there and gently untangle the whole thing. Step number one is making sure that you always have a comb or brush. This one is by Jon Renau, and I like this one because it's nice and flat, so I can tuck it in my handbag and away I go. How you comb this makes a big difference, right? So what I like to do, I will not be starting at the top because I don't want to pull on this hair fiber. The more tension that's created on this fiber, it's going to stretch it out over time, and it's really going to compromise the curl and just the quality of the fiber. What I do is start at the very bottom and I gently comb, and then I work my way up. Be very mindful, especially when I'm wearing long styles like this, of any sort of friction points. So naturally, a synthetic piece is going to tangle, especially if it's being rubbed up against something. What I mean is like rubbed up against the back of my shirt. When I get in the car, it rubs up against the seat. Something that I like to do, especially in the summer when it's hot, I will take a clip just like this. I got this one at Target, and I will take the hair. I know I'm gonna be driving. Let's say I'm going for a long drive or something, right? And I will take the hair like this and I will clip it up, just to hold it up for a little while. Another thing I'll do is take it and just pull it to the front before I get in the car. The reason why is because as I'm driving, I'm turning my head. I have cloth seats. This hair is not gliding across my buttery leather in my car. No, I have cloth. Just from sitting in the car, it's rubbing, it's creating friction, and that friction over time is going to cause tangling. Another thing that I like to do is, obviously when I get home every night, I will be combing the piece in order to just make sure I get all the tangles out. I will use their HD Smooth Detangler from Jon Renau. I like this one because it's made for synthetic hair fiber. If you're looking to buy it, please keep in mind they did change their packaging recently, so you'll see it in like a black bottle like this. Another thing that I like to do with these pieces, especially on the ones that I'm having to like pull away from my face and use the Fiber Love Flexible Holding Spray on, or the Contour Fiber Creme, or any sort of like hold product, is I always make sure that I wash my pieces after 6 to 8 wears, because especially on synthetics, that fiber is gonna start to just pretty much be encased in layers of product. And not just product, you're talking about environmental junk, sweat, pollen, like all kinds of nasty stuff, right? Makeup, especially if you ever wash your pieces, you wear them all the time, you'll notice that the hair right here around the face, if you wear, especially if you wear foundation, will get caked in makeup. And then over time, the fibers start to feel like straw. Make sure that you're washing every 6 to 8 wears. For the washes, I do use the Jon Renau synthetic shampoo, and then I'll follow it up with the conditioning spray, which is a leave-in treatment, and I will spray my piece with that after it is damp. I don't spray too much, again, because I don't want to gunk up the hair fibers. Permanent damage happens on these pieces. Permanent damage in the form of, let's talk about maybe when the curl falls out, right? I am committing a big error right now by storing my wig like this. When you have a curly piece like this and you're storing it like this, gravity takes effect, guys. Over time, these curls will start to fall just because of gravity. How do you counteract this? If you notice, when you took your wig out of the box, and I always recommend you keep the box. I actually like storing mine in the box. But let's say I'm gonna wear this one later on this week, right? And I don't wanna put it back in the box yet. You have a hairnet. If you threw yours away, you can go on Amazon and buy a pack of like a bajillion for super cheap. What I recommend you do is, yeah, you can totally leave it on the wig stand, but you'll want to encase the hair in the hairnet, and you will scrunch up those curls in the way they are meant to be so that the hair is not free falling. What does that mean? That means that when you have it in the hairnet just like this, it helps release or prevent tension from pulling the hair down. Hair weighs something, right? So this will help counteract gravity. Now, if your piece is clean and dry, another thing I suggest is, and this might actually hold better, is taking one of those cheap plastic shower caps and just wrapping it in that. And just be mindful of how your curls are sitting within the shower cap, just to make sure that there is such a phenomenon as cold crimping, and that happens with synthetic hair fibers. When synthetic hair fiber sits for a period of time in a particular position, it will start to take on that form, whatever position it's in. Good example is, let's say you have like a straight wig like this. This is Kaya in Venice Blonde? No, Laguna Blonde. And I steamed her the other day. If I were to have taken her and just let her sit over the edge of my dresser like this, she would have a big crease right here, right? She'd be going like this. So what I've done with her, and this is the same thing with the curly styles, after I gently steamed her, I put the hairnet on her just to keep those ends, we're not talking like big curls here, but just to keep those ends curving, and that's how I ensure that she keeps the shape that she needs to have. If you have a shorter wig stand like this one, then it's a lot easier, right? If you have a longer style. So let's take Rachel and let's pull her off of the long or the tall wig stand, and let's pop her on this little short wig stand. And this might work better with something like a Sarah. But instead of having her hang off the edge of the dresser, I will just set her down and just make sure that the curls are in whatever place that I want them to be. Set her down and then just kind of like scrunch them up like this and just leave her just like that. Now, when it comes to washing, like I said before, you're gonna wash every 6 to 8 wears, and how you dry your synthetic piece makes a huge difference in how those fibers are going to set and how that curl pattern is either going to stay in your piece or it's going to slowly wear away with time. If she was wet, I would do the same thing, except I may take a couple extra steps. I would take my fingers and scrunch her up, wrap her around my finger, or just make sure that the curls are the way that I want them to be when I set her to dry. I've seen people take the wig and hang it, or hang it upside down, turn it inside out. That's not gonna help you. If you let it dry like that, the hairs are gonna just lose their shape. They're gonna lose their bouncy curl, and then you're gonna get into a situation where you're gonna have to restore the curl, which is totally possible, and I can show you how to do that, but I'll be honest, it's a pain in the butt. How do you restore a piece once it's past that point to where it's lost its curl, or it's like really frizzy and matted and just gross, and you're ready to, you love it, but you're like, I don't like this piece anymore. This is, oh, I have another tip, by the way, on storing. This is Mila, which she is another synthetic, and this is why I say keep the box. I will put her in the hairnet, and then I will tuck her into the box that she came in, and I will squish in those curls, and that really goes a long way in making sure that those curls stay nice. My Mila had been sitting on a wig stand for quite some time, a few months ago, and she really was starting to lose her curl, and I put her back in the box to store her, and yes, she's come a long way, but remember, and I almost just forgot this myself, start combing at the bottom, and you can tell she's definitely got some tangles on her because I'm getting some resistance. So right now would be a really good time to spray her with HD Smooth Detangler. Not too much, right? Grab my wide tooth comb again and start at the bottom. Now, at some point here, very, very soon, I'm gonna have to restore this baby because she is past that point. She is, she's in need of some love. So how do you do this? You hear that? She's got a lot of tangles. I've yet to do one with my curly wig, but when I do, I will post a before and after. So I have a tripod and a canvas blockhead. Pro tip, never put a wet wig on this guy because it's gonna stretch out your cap. And for someone like me, I have a little head, so I do not want to stretch out my cap. All right, so I will put my wig on the stand. And of course, for argument's sake, I will use my T-pins to secure the wig in place. 2 on the top and bottom of the ear tabs, and then in the nape area, 1 on either side, and she will be secure. But just for illustrative purposes today, here's a couple things that I'm going to suggest that you buy if you're gonna restore your curly wavy piece. So number 1 is your Jon Renau steamer. So I had been steaming my wigs with a clothing steamer for the longest. The clothing steamer has 3 nozzles, and it made it really hard to control which way the steam was going. This one only has 1, and it's very gentle. And the clothing steamer ran out of water really fast, and this one lasts a lot longer because the tank's bigger. So I highly recommend buying this. Do not be alarmed if it takes a while to warm up. It's just the way it is. So I usually make sure that I start it up right away and give it time to warm up. I've got a set of these rod curlers. These are super cheap. I bought them on Amazon, and they're just foam rod rollers. Let's see. And Tifara Beauty is the brand. Another thing I have here is the True Wave. Now these are end papers, and they're used a lot with like perms and such, but all it is just a little piece of paper. And these little end papers are brilliant for securing the ends in place so that you don't get like wild and crazy ends. Another thing I suggest that you have handy, don't have, is a bottle of water. I was looking for my carbon comb, but I could not find it. A fine-tooth carbon comb would be perfect also for this. First thing you're gonna do to restore curly fiber is, if you can see on the wig, it already kind of has a pattern going, right? The cool thing is you can change this if you want. If you want them to go in different directions, or if you want more of a beach curl or more of like a classic curl, that's totally up to you. But what I suggest doing, because I have been steaming now for quite some time, is going in small sections at a time. You have to be really patient. Do not do this if you're gonna plan on wearing this wig for the next couple days, because after you steam her, it's gonna take 24 hours for her to set. Otherwise, all your hard work will have been for nothing. Now, normally I'd be using my carbon comb, but I can't find it, so I'm just using the paddle brush because it's fine tooth paddle brush. Gosh, the fibers feel really rough right now. Okay, so what I would typically do in this case is just use the carbon comb and just steam it out. Now, steaming is literally going to make this hair pin straight. So how do we get the curl back in? All right, the first thing you're going to do is take your end paper, just like this, and you're going to go to the end of the hair, and I don't know if you guys can see this, where you're going to fold the end paper over like a book. And then you're going to take your water bottle, and I don't have a real hair water bottle, I just use a used bottle of Fix Plus from MAC. I don't know. Anyway, and you'll spray. And that's a really good way to get the hair, the end paper, to hold the hair in place. And then you will take your rod and you'll start at the top and you will wrap the hair around. And use the rod that corresponds with the tightness of the curl that you're going for. Just like that. You will take one of your trusty T-pins, and then you can take that T-pin and just ram it right through that little rod into your canvas blockhead and secure it just like that. Cool. And then from there, what you do is you take your handy dandy Jon Renau steamer, and then you'll just steam it just like you like it. You like my sound effect. And then you'll steam it, and then you're gonna leave it like this for 24 hours. Why? Because just like in the factory, you're gonna warm it up and then you're gonna let it cool. You're gonna let it cool for 24 hours so that that fiber that you just steamed in place stays there and maintains that curl. And that is how you restore a curly piece. I thank you so much for watching, and I hope that this tutorial was helpful. I hope that you guys learned how to take care of your pieces so that you don't have to do this, or you can go as long as possible without having to do this. Sorry the video cut off, but thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye.